stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Myers. Here. Bowen. Here. Imhoff. Here. Burnwell. Clark Hubbard is here, along with our zoning administrator, Dave Kelsey. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I want to add one thing to new business, and that is just some general discussion on building and property maintenance. Anybody else have anything? If not, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with adding under new business an item for discussion on building and property maintenance. Is there support? Support. Motion has been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Public comment on agenda items. Any comments on our agenda items? Okay, we'll close first public comment and go right, oh, did I miss something? I did. Approving. Okay, we're minutes. I missed approving the minutes. So public comment is closed. We gotta back up a step and go to approving the minutes from July 14th regular meeting. Anybody have any questions, comments, changes on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes from July 14th? Motion's been made. Is there support? Support. Motion's been made and supported to approve the minutes as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go into the treasurer's report with Jamie.
In the township account, we had a beginning balance of $341,898, with income of $42,120, expenses of $15,615, with an ending balance of $368,404. The fire district account had a beginning balance of 3 cents, no income, no expenses, so the ending balance is also 3 cents. Honeymoon Heights, same thing, $13,413 beginning and ending balance. The new money market account was opened July 30th, I believe, so there was a beginning balance of 0 and an ending balance of 0, because money didn't get put in there until August 1st. CD 301, beginning and ending balance, $59,824. CD 302, beginning and ending balance, $59,829. CD 303, we renewed that, so there was some interest that we did get for income, so the beginning balance was $51,546, with interest income of $132, and an ending balance of $51,679. The tax account had a beginning balance of $5.59, income of $325,005, expenses of $90,378, so an ending balance of $234,632.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. And on any questions for Jamie from the board? I just wanted to make note on the tax account, so there's just several outstanding checks. Page in a couple, so that's why that balance is so high. Just crossed over the month, so otherwise it's pretty much in and out, in and out. And then the fire district account, you've gone ahead and closed that because anything we're collecting for fire, which happens with winter taxes, gets dispersed right from the tax account. So going forward, like that 3 cents was.
I'll add it on the first disbursement in December.
Yep, and so then we won't have that one on there anymore. And then when's the new maturity date for 303?
It's a 6 months, so
January. gonna mature on the Black Friday, so I guess if for some reason it had this like stellar Black Friday deal, the penalty is less than, yeah. So, just something to watch for. Any other comments or questions for Jeannie? And, is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I make a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll support it. Motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then, I think you said you were still looking, we'll be looking for the laptop, here in the near future. We talked about that last meeting. You mentioned the money market, so we're now also set up for the positive pay program with Mercantile, so probably this next check. Have you had any,
Yep, I have one.
you had one, how did that go? Just out of curiosity.
It was good.
Pretty easy, I just go on there and approve them and.
Yep, because they gave us a webinar first to show us how to do it, so.
Okay, cool. All right, anything else in the treasurer's department to bring up? Good. Okay, moving on to clerk's report and approval of the August bills list. They should have had a chance to look that over. Any questions on the list? See, our second chloride, application payment is on there, it's kind of the biggest item, everything else is fairly routine, I'd say. Any questions or comments on bills? One thing I'll just mention is, our former IT provider, VC3, keeps saying we owe them $600, and I've been trying to get a hold of somebody there. We have a different sales rep and I haven't been able to connect with him, to kind of talk about what the previous guy had said, and, so I'm trying to work through that, so I guess we'll see come next meeting where that lands. We're no longer using them, we've discontinued the service, but I guess that final cutoff, there is some question, I guess, of where that cutoff occurred. And then BSNA, we're switching to the cloud in October, and we've already paid for, was it half of the training fee, or we paid them, but they did send us, the normal bill that we get for, runs August 25 to August 26th. And I have a call into them to ask, do we just pay this and then we'll get credit for that when we get to the cloud, get that all set up, which I'm pretty sure that's what they said originally, but he didn't call me back, so it's not on the bills list. But I might, I guess we'll go through and get approval of the bills list in front of you, and then, maybe get a tentative approval to pay this if that turns out that is the case, that we should pay this, cause it is due, it's due by August 31st, so I just don't wanna mess anything up with our account to wait till September, our September meeting. So if there's no other questions on the, August bills list, is there a motion to approve payment of August bills in the amount of $26,540.93? Motion has been made, is there support?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Roll call, Myers?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Imhoff?
Yes.
Burnwald?
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes. Motion carries. And then I'll go ahead and make a motion, I'm trying to get ahead of myself here, to tentatively approve payment, before our next meeting of the BSNA, software invoice. This is for our assessing system for the .NET system. It's $1,172. I'd like to make a motion that the board approve paying that pending me making sure we're gonna get credited for it, which I'm sure we will. Is there support? Support. Motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do roll call. Bernwald,
Yes.
Imhoff.
Yes.
Bowen,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion carries. Set that aside so we can have you get a check. Maybe get a check on Friday after I get a chance to connect with them. The other thing is Ginger, has signed up for an elections training in October. Is that in Lansing?
No, it's in September.
It's in September, and that, if I remember correctly, said that one, there's no cost for
There's no cost for it's the Bureau of Elections paying for it, just it's an overnight
but
stay.
you would need to stay overnight, and so, she had asked if, we could get approval for hotel reimbursement, which we, usually do. We've done that in the past, so, have you booked your hotel yet? If we approve up to $200, that would be plenty, okay. I make a motion that we approve, hotel reimbursement for Clerk Imhoff for the September elections training, up to $200. Is there support?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported by, I don't know who got there first. Jamie won. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Myers?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Imhoff?
Yes.
Bernwald?
Yes.
Clark Hubbard, yes, motion carries. We did have reached out from our insurance company, they wanted to do a walkthrough appraisal. Our agent said that's pretty normal in the first year, so on Friday, a representative from the appraisal company that they had hired came in and very quick, she asked a few questions, and I guess now we see if she, thinks we're appraised for a appropriate amount on the building. And then we've also got our notifications of our annual workers' comp audit, so Ginger and I will be working on that to get them the requests that they need. The election grants that we applied for from the state and also, I guess, one election grant from the state, and then the, billing we did to the school for running the special May, election. We're still waiting for those, they've been sent out, we're waiting to get paid on those. And then, I think I mentioned this at last month's meeting, but the Montcalm Community Advancement, Committee has opened their grant period. I think I read there's like $40,000 they're gonna be awarding for various projects. And the application period, I think is through September 30th, but I've got the application. I'd like to maybe put in for possibly a generator. But gotta do a little legwork, maybe get some, quotes together, so Ginger and I'll work on that. Try to see if we can, get any grant money for that. And there was a couple random grant things I received, but they seemed more like village-related things. One was for like consumers' energies, prosperity, neighborhood revitalization, arts and culture, and national healthy cities for fitness courts. So I made sure the village, which they receive all that stuff, village manager already had all that, but just to let you know, you get this random stuff that comes, but those two didn't really seem like something we would go for in the township. No elections update, cause there shouldn't be any November election.
The update is there's no election.
There's no election, okay, good. And that, takes us into, zoning administrator report with Dave.
Okay. At 6979 Tamarack Road, permit for a home and pole barn at 11061 Lake Street, a pole barn at 10916 M46. Their permit was issued, but I rescinded it because he said it was a 78, and I looked for a plate, did a number of things, and there's no plate with the year on it, and I told him, well, I need the title, and that'll show it. He says he doesn't have a title. My thinking is it's older than a 76, and then it's a 14-foot wide. He originally told me it was gonna be 22 foot, I believe, and then after he dropped it off, he said, well, he was gonna add on to it, and he said that I said it was, he could do it, and I didn't say that. So now, on, my gosh, we jumped down into the violations. He has until the 13th before I issue a ticket for if he doesn't remove the mobile home, which is just a couple days from now. And, let me see, on Hickory, there's 11381 Hickory Drive, blight, it's compliant. At 6685 Hemlock, there was blight, it's compliant. At 11589 Juniper, I've been to court twice on it so far, and now his fines are $785, and there's another court date. The magistrate keeps giving him more and more chances, which something needs to change there. But I have a court date for that, 8/29 and 25. If it's not cleaned up, supposedly the magistrate said he'll get penalized. He said that the time before and didn't do any good. At 7106 Cutler Road, that blight has been going on since 24, and they're working on it. The only thing left, there's a couple little piles. They have made a big progress on it, and he has that RV, he's gonna get out of there too. But like I said, just a little bit more time, it'll be cleaned up.
Okay, so
There was a lot of,
that was a big project,
Yeah,
so you're
oh,
saying you've seen pretty good progress on that one.
yep, and then, okay, what's this, 813, I already said that, on Terry Drive, there's a violation there. He has a camper there, or he has 2 tents there now, and some other stuff. And he has till the 20th, and that'll be the 14 days. And I did contact him, over the email, and of course he's upset, and he, basically, he wants to know if he can, appeal my decision. And I said, anybody could, do that, but I didn't get back to him on that. And I was wondering if somebody does that, it would take the zoning board of appeals to listen to an appeal to my decision. Does this guy pay for that as like a variance? Because he's
Well, it
gonna
wouldn't be
have
a
the board.
variance, it would be an appeal.
Yeah.
But let's, I guess, give a little background to the board. So this it's a vacant piece of property out to Lake Forest, and is it earlier this spring, somebody sent you a advertisement on some site where they were advertising that you could come and
Well, they
rent
did.
it
Camper on it.
to camp it.
It's the owner's camper, but you can pay by the.
Yeah, I don't know if that's what it was, but something
I
like
think
that,
so.
and it was like year round, you can do this, and Dave actually sent them a letter saying, now there's rules on camping, you can't
Yeah.
do this, and we're only allowing 14 days, so there was notice mailed.
Oh, yeah, when the
This
notice
spring.
did say you could only, do it for, 14 days
Yeah, I
out of
think
the
you sent
year.
them
I
a
didn't-
copy of the ordinance
Yeah.
and stuff. Well, then, we got another complaint last week, that said there's people camping there. So Dave went out and, they were, I don't know if it was,
There's 2 tents out there and like a little storage thing and,
so,
just odds and ends.
so he told him, well, you have to have a permit. Well, the other thing is, your 14 days, And he's saying he wants his 14 days to start now, when he gets his permit, so
I think he just disagrees with the zoning and wants to be able to do it all year round. I don't know.
I guess I feel like it hadn't been already previously, there was notice of, hey, you need to get a permit, and went ahead and got it anyway. I'm a little less inclined to be flexible on, okay, you can have a fresh start of 14 days if you pull a permit, just because of the backstory there.
Yeah, the guy didn't really go into detail on what he's appealing. He's just appealing the,
Your decision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he's
it might
welcome,
be because I told him the 20th would be
his lap,
the deadline.
like, I guess he could be appealing, well, I should get a new 14 days, because you'd have to make an argument of why, and the zoning board of appeals would have to be convinced that, I guess we usually have variances requests, I don't know that I've ever had an appeal.
Yeah,
of a
so
decision,
I
to
don't know
overturn
how-
your decision, which is,
I've never had an appeal at any other township, I was just wondering,
I can
So,
ask
I don't-
the attorney too, of, hey, is this pretty much the same application as a variance, or,
yeah,
go from there, if that's the route he wants to go, but it was
So,
notified of the camping,
Yeah.
and would have got a postcard too, when they
Yep.
sent all that,
yep.
so.
So anyway, that's where that's at, I'll hold off on, texting them back until I find out from you, should we charge for an appeal or
I
not?
would, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Because
we
it's
have
gonna
to pay our
cost the
CD,
township,
the
yeah.
ZBA's got it,
And then if so, what would the fee be? Will it be the same as a variance?
I would think so,
Which
because
would be $400.
if we have to do a public hearing and.
Well, hold on now, here in our, book, we have ZBA variance, appeals, and interpretation. Application fee $400, and that answers it right there. I didn't,
And if that's,
read the small
is that,
print.
what's the date on that?
Oh, that's a new one.
That's a
you
newer
guys
one,
put out.
okay. But as far as a public, I'm assuming
6/9/25.
we have to do a public hearing, that I'm gonna have to ask, I'm not 100% on that, or we'll look into that. So, yeah, hold off on replying
Oh,
on the next
okay.
step. I will check after that. And then backing up to the 10916 M46, so originally you approved the permit, but with the understanding that it was gonna be the minimum width of
20 feet.
20 feet or whatever it is. And,
He had on the site plan, it was 20
he
feet.
had just shown
Yeah.
the structure was that, width. And also, our standards say any manufactured housing has to be up to at least the 1978 standards.
76.
Or 76 standards. So they weren't able to provide that, cause you can't produce a title. And then the other thing, come to find out, this is really a 14-foot single wide that they wanna put an addition on to get to 22 feet, which is
Yeah.
not really
Right.
the spirit. Now, we may need to, that may be something, Dave, we might wanna clarify with the planning commission, if maybe there's some, I mean, I think it's pretty clear, but to make it totally black and white, so. that
I
never-
kinda feel that maybe the planning commission should look, instead of having a 1976, that means you can put a trailer on there 50 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, those things,
I think that there should be like a standard 25
15 years,
years.
25, yeah, something.
Cause now, cause we'd be at the 2000s right now, and you can get a nice double wide, or, that's a 2000, so.
Yeah, that way.
But I
you
think,
can't
there should be a number of age versus a year, definitely.
Yeah, and
Then I-
if, the other thing is, I think the reason that width is put in there was because the township didn't want
Yeah.
the single wides, to continue. I mean, obviously, there's some grandfathered in and stuff, but, that is something maybe to even make even more clear that the township does not allow single wides, which I guess
I
it's
think
that,
it's written in there, if I remember, right? I went through it before.
So-
They clarify that.
we just, maybe you guys, I know you kinda got this little laundry list of
Yep.
cleanup items, you add that for your September meeting.
I'm even thinking with applications, when somebody makes out today, because you don't go out to the site, you go by what they're,
Yeah, by their, what's
just
on
by what
there.
they're sending you.
Yep.
Something to consider possibly for manufacturing to provide a copy of,
The title.
the title,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, like on the application, it should, and we should say, is this stick built or is this manufactured
Mhm,
housing? And
Yeah.
if they mark manufactured, must provide a copy of title.
correct. Some don't, some people don't have titles,
Yeah.
I ran into that too, but you can get a lost title.
Mhm.
all you gotta do is go get a bond and then go to the Secretary of State. So it is easy to do, just FYI, but anyways, I
How would
think
they
that
be able
needs to be
to
changed and
prove-
they should provide that, because we would have seen this, this
Yeah.
wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, I can, make adjustments in that whenever they want, modular
Yeah.
or double wide or
I think if you say manufactured.
manufactured, yeah.
That kind of covers it all.
Manufactured covers everything.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else for Dave? We'll move on to, land division report from Marcy.
Been doing a lot. I've had a couple more this past month. I'm working right now with a builder who is just out of the village. He did buy a piece of property. He wants to split that in half and build 2 houses, so, and he is in compliance, so I'm working with him on that right now.
Okay.
But, yeah, a lot going on with land divisions, so.
Planning commission, David Bernwald.
We worked on the short-term rental, we got just about done, there's one thing that, asking of the board, figure out the initial fee we're gonna charge for it, and then there's an annual fee, yearly fee for the short-term rental. Belvedere is $50, initial fee, and then you get $50 for, yearly, but the question is what happens if they come to you, like June 2nd? After that, do you do it in half, or do you, if they apply for it June 2nd, do you prorate it, or how do you, that was the question that we had for us to figure out too.
Okay.
I mean, we can think about this, do some background, but we don't have another meeting until it's.
So it's not a special use when you get it, the short-term rental will be like is that like a permitted use? Cause like our special land use fee is like $400, $500. I guess we'll have to look more into
Yes.
what I guess I'm not familiar with.
Belvedere doesn't go to the planning commission, it comes straight to me,
Oh,
and
okay,
then it would be a fee, and,
okay, so we'll just have to,
make sure to get a copy of everything that has to.
so it would be just a regular permit versus a special
Yeah.
use permit, okay. Yeah, we could,
I mean, the question there was, who's gonna make sure January 1st that everybody's had one pays up again? If we do a yearly fee on it.
Yeah, that's another thing, how you go about it
I
now.
mean, it's,
Belvedere's, I have like 4 of them out there, and there's different dates, so I have to have a separate file with those on there with a sticky pad where it shows what the date is. So when I look through the files, I'll see the dates, and okay, it's time for them to get a new one.
and that's what we talked about, we do it all January 1st. Then it's
Easier
It'd
than
be
the-
easier,
Yeah,
January
for-
1st, December 31st, and then I'm thinking if they do, say, like after June 15th or something, for that year, maybe do the $25,
If we do it.
after June 15th, if they have a new one and they wanna start renting it out. And then obviously then come January 1st, they would have to pay for their whole year. But I think that'd be so much easier to just, for all of them to be January 1st, yeah, and you can send them out.
But it came June 16th, that's close enough to June 15th.
Yeah,
Some of it,
June 15th, June 14th at midnight.
But we can figure out if we wanna do 50 or more, that's just a number, we can figure that out next month before. No,
I think it should be more.
yes. Did you wanna talk more about that, Randy, you good?
the fees.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess, without looking at what's all entailed, it sounds like this is what other townships do. But there's not a whole lot to it to renew the permit, so it doesn't seem like we'd have a significant cost that we're trying to cover, as a township, so.
Douglas and Winfield doesn't allow short-term rentals. The people in the lake don't want it, so.
Okay.
and then. So for September, since that's almost done, we wanna know the fee, then we're gonna, figure out a public hearing at the next meeting. Then we had still on our list, home occupation for lake residential, tent permit requirement, special use for commercial use, minimum house square footage in the commercial district. That's still, and then you just gotta clarify the house width, you know, we just talked about, Randy, and then there's a gentleman who came and talked about these mini homes. Give us another diagram and then some pictures of the mini homes that he wants to put in that. Maybe these here, or should make a copy for the next meeting. You know, I said before, you wanted to have an idea of, so he came again, that's what this is.
So you guys kinda listened to what he's wanted.
Yep.
And, just kinda left it at that, and then at your next meeting, you guys are gonna discuss what your thoughts are as a
I
group?
believe, so. I mean, we talked about it, I mean, we know we wanna get on top of these other ones first, we're gonna keep getting pushed down the road, but, I mean, the only thing here is he was wanting to know if we thought this would be approved, or could be approved, if we could do a couple stick-built homes to be able to maybe see if they would sell in the area, but I mean, I don't think that's how we operate, it's either gonna be yes or no, and if, cause we can't tell them yes before we have a public hearing on this thing.
Yeah, we
Cause
would
if
have
these
to amend
people,
our ordinance.
yes, I mean, there's a lot more to that, but there's a lot here that he's asking, for us to, I mean, if we basically tell him yes, then he's gonna try to do it, but he'd like to do it a couple this fall, if not next spring definitely, but.
Well, I don't think you can do
No,
it until we got
So we approve it, I mean, that's what we
rules
said,
written,
so
and that's gonna take time, but.
there's a lot more here that,
And kinda, you know, obviously pulling off the master plan and, you know, what do we talk about housing and, you know, what our goals are for housing, and what's available for housing, you know, those kinds of things. You know, you guys as a group should discuss, is this something we wanna put, energy and resources into writing rules for this one project that we've only had interest in, you know,
one spot.
one person.
Well, that's what our meeting was about. Anybody wants to see a picture of
Okay,
that?
yep.
Just curious, what's the difference between, the square footage difference between our minimum and a tiny home?
850 is our minimum, and he was asking 500 to 660, is what he's asking. But I mean, the lots are a lot smaller, but there's a lot, most people have a shed and place to park their car, and that takes up almost the room that he's got there.
Where's all the sewer gonna go?
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are
Put a lake out there.
stick-built, they're
Yeah,
not like
they
on
built,
wheels,
yeah, built.
wheels.
Oh, so they'd be built right there.
And then I think Dave had just wanted you guys to clarify the square footage in the lake residential
Yep,
for ground area.
Yep.
And if you have a multiple story, what the minimum square looked like, there might have been a little discrepancy.
Yep.
And then I had somebody ask me, about this the other day too, maybe if you can, again, this kind of little housekeeping list, the setbacks for accessory buildings in chapter 3 compared to, chapter 6, rural residential, in the little table, it talks about, residential setback, if residential use setbacks are this, if it's non-residential setbacks are this, and they were different between like a accessory building and a non-residential
Okay.
setback, so I don't know if that's, you know, is the accessory building considered residential, or, it was different, for just that district, so if you could maybe. just
Chapter
add
3 and chapter 6.
Chapter 3 and chapter 6, chapter 3 specific for accessory buildings. Okay, thanks for that update, David, and, real quick on zoning board of appeals, so they haven't really there's been no variance requests, come in. They had originally scheduled to just have a regular meeting, they have their organizational meeting in January, and they thought, well, we'll put something on the calendar for August, to meet, and, they don't have anything major for the agenda, so that meeting tomorrow will likely be, canceled, because there won't be a quorum there, there's really nothing to consider, other than approving minutes from the last meeting, so just FYI, I'll probably just have to buzz up here at 6 o'clock in case somebody shows up thinking there's a meeting, and let them know, so. And then we still are looking for an alternate, and I know we you brought this up last time, if we really could have Ginger be an alternate in the case that she had to fill in for, Dave, or not Dave, Joe or Ben, and then there could be 2 board members, and I did ask the attorney, and she said, yeah, I'd steer away from that, so we'll, continue to try to corral somebody to be an alternate. Okay, that's it for planning and zoning, moving into fire district. Ginger?
First of all, I was surprised or proud because at the meeting, they mentioned right out that Cato Township was the only one that had paid their delinquent tax fee, the money that came in to pay. We agreed to pay them the 1st of July. And so Cato Township did pay them. And they thanked me for it. I had nothing to do with it, so thank you for getting around and getting that done when it was supposed to be done. The other ones haven't done that, no.
Job team.
So, let's see. There was a donation of $2,000 from Sandyland Farms for a controlled burn out there. There was a motion to replace one of the overhead doors and a motion to approve the ceiling insulation they need down here in the new part. The old fire part was always insulated, but when the village gave them, or when the village moved out and they took over the rest of it, that part's not insulated, so they're doing that. They have an upcoming chicken barbecue scheduled for Labor Day weekend, 650 chickens ordered. And if anyone sees anything on, that the fire department is looking for donations, that's not ever true, and they made a very big point, we don't do donations, but what happened was that fire that they had at Five Corners, there was an explosion, and the people, the family, wanted to do something to thank the fire department for that. So they're doing independently a fundraiser to buy the fire department some gas detection equipment. Because the everyday gas detection equipment really just is not very accurate at all, it's pretty expensive, so. And then they're gonna donate that to the fire department, but they put out some ads that said donations for the fire department, and it made it look that way, and so they just wanted to clarify that. They are not looking for donations. And that was about it.
Okay. And just FYI, if anybody ever wants to see the reports Ginger gets at the meetings she goes to, they always give financial
Yes,
reports.
I have all
and stuff.
that.
She has copies of all that, if anybody ever wants a copy or wants it emailed to them, to look over, so.
Any more update on the ladder truck or not?
Yes, there was, it should be done, like, before the next meeting. But there was no discussion at all about the final bill, because they really didn't know yet, but the actual physical part of it is done, it just needs to be inspected. So, but I don't know the ending cost yet or anything they had on the final bill, so.
Alright, thank you, Ginger. Supervisor's report, assessing department, so July board of review was held last month. Had a few things on the agenda, there was a few late filed, personal property tax forms, due to when we changed PO boxes from the previous assessor. They didn't send their forms to the new one, so we had to get some clarification. We were able to get those corrected at the July board of review. I mentioned at the last meeting, we do have 2 tax tribunal petitions. One is kind of a basic one, they're just waiting for that to be scheduled. Andy's pretty comfortable dealing with that one, but the other one was a little more complicated, and he had asked if we could involve the township attorney, which we don't work directly with Leslie at Foster Swift. There's another gentleman who specializes in these cases. it is, it's one of it's a nursing facility that is, has requested to reduce their, values, and, sounds like they're working with a consultant that kind of, works with a lot of these places and just kind of tries to get them lowered. They work on a contingent fee basis, so, this consultant doesn't get paid unless they get tax values lowered, and since COVID, I guess they've been really amping up trying to lower values, and our attorney feels we have a pretty reasonable position, as far as what it's valued at. So, the attorney feels that we should, at least go through the, paperwork piece of it, where you go through discovery, and they have to provide what the support for why they think their value should go down, and he wants to look at that, and he said, I asked, well, what's the cost involved? He said it's usually about 5 to 10 hours, less than 2,000 for his fees to do that, and once you go through that piece of it and, trade paperwork back and forth, then sometimes they're looking to settle, basically, versus just a township just kind of being like, okay, whatever, let it go, which we don't necessarily wanna do that. Don't really wanna go down a slippery slope of not looking into this. We do have a, obligation to fairly assess property and collect the taxes for, all of the jurisdictions we work with. So, I just wanted to let the board know, that, myself and Andy and the attorney had a conference call, and he kind of explained this, and, I just said, I just like to let the board know that this kind of initial phase is gonna be 5 to 10 hours from the attorney, getting this paperwork, so that, he can see what they're looking to do. If they're looking to just kind of meet in the middle, or get a drastic reduction, but he says that, we've got a reasonable position, so.
If they're looking to reduce the improvements on the property,
They want their taxable value to go down.
Right.
So, but we don't really know what their position is, or if they're just throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks. Well, that would be after you kind of go through the discovery phase and see what they're looking at. If the township wanted to take it further, we could order appraisal, which are pretty expensive.
For commercial.
Yeah, so, but we can at least, move through that first phase and see what we're dealing with, so. Make sure everybody was clear on that. Roads, so we had gotten a complaint about Satterley Road on the other side of the trout stream, that, we have the issue where we can't pave. Eagle wants something more than just the tubes that are there. Road Commission there's a special contractor that deals with a certain kind of liner, and this guy's out of state, and he's gonna be up here in September. And they're gonna have him look at that and see if this kind of alternate, solution for that crossing, besides a full-out bridge, which is what Eagle would want, is my understanding. So, but they did go do some patching out there to hopefully ease some of the frustration of, because we had paved from the village limit all the way out to where that stream is, and then after that, needs work, but they have patched that. And then, the complaints we got at Honeymoon Heights for Lake Shore to Elm, my understanding is that patching is done also. They did also do the, makeup chloride application on Bird Shore out to Town Line Lake. And most of our road projects, if you've been up Vale Road or down Youngman Road and even out to Cutler Road, at Town Line Lake, most of our big road projects are either done or wrapping up. So, those invoices will be coming in probably the next month or so, just FYI. Drains, last month I reported they were doing drain maintenance in section, on the Edgar drain, sections 17 and 18. Got another notice that in section 18 on the Edgar drain, they're gonna be doing some spraying, in the coming weeks, so they just wanted to share that. Notice was given. I also got, maybe Dave, you can shed some light on this, but this was something we were one of many property owners or, a lot of farmers listed on here, cause we're in a watershed district, or a watershed area, and there's somebody who's wanting to register, a permit for, what'd you say?
Should be for another well.
For a well, yeah, and then
It's kind of-
they have to know, it's pretty common, and then we get notified, and it just says, you may wish to establish or be included in a local water users committee, but for the watershed, but I don't think we have anything, that's nothing to really worry about. So, I'll let know if correspondence received. Audit field work is scheduled for August 19th, Ginger and I have been working on that. Events and meetings, Tuesday, August 19th. So, week from tomorrow is the MTA meeting. It's at Ferris Center Church in Vesterberg. Speaker is going to be Pat Outman. He was supposed to be at our last meeting, but he had to cancel at the last minute. But the reservation is due 2 p.m. this Thursday. So if you would like to attend that, hear hopefully an update on what's going on in Lansing with his proposals for road funding, might be a good one to go to, but I need to know by this Thursday if you're gonna go.
What time is the meeting?
The meeting
6 o'clock.
is at 6 o'clock, yep. And then also mentioned in previous meetings, the Drain Commission Stormwater Compliance Seminar is August 21st at 6 p.m., so a week from Thursday. And that RSVP is due this Friday, the 15th, I believe Friday's the 15th. And it's gonna be hosted by the Drain Commission, the Road Commission, and the Building Department, and they're gonna talk about stormwater compliance and how it affects the community. And from what I've been told, attendees will walk away with a sample stormwater, ordinance to incorporate, whether it's zoning or non-zoning ordinance, I'm not sure. But I need to know by Friday if you'd like to go to that. Yes, that's 6 o'clock also, and that is it's gonna be at the Road Commission office in Stan. Yep. Okay, that wraps up the supervisor's report. There is no old business, and going into new business, everybody should have received, copies of some policy templates, that have kind of been on a back burner for a while, but I figured there wasn't a whole lot on the agenda, we could knock these out. We have a purchasing policy, accounts payable, ACH, and tax disbursement, and then fixed asset capitalization and acceptance of payments by financial transaction device. So a lot of what's in here, we're pretty much already doing. We just need to memorialize it in a policy, so it's, in writing, and we can kind of build on our internal policies. A lot of this stuff is required by the state, and some of it is best practice, but, most of these templates came from the MTA's, basic template, or, the purchasing one I kind of pulled from their guidebook on policies, and also some other, samples that I have. So, I guess we'll start with the purchasing policy. This is a good check and balance between, making sure the person who's mainly in charge of making purchases isn't, the person, I guess, writing the checks or dispersing the checks at the end of the day. We have the purpose and then authority. Primarily, the township clerk is the one who's mainly in charge of making the purchases as they're approved by the board or in accordance with the policy. Does have the supervisor as being the backup in the case when the clerk isn't able to, exercise that, responsibility. Now, we do have where the township clerk and the township treasurer each have the credit card, and I've incorporated that in here, making reference to the credit card use policy we previously approved last year, I think, where they're both authorized to purchase their office supplies for their respective departments, but primarily if we're looking to buy something, a big item or something, it's the clerk who would be the one kind of responsible for, getting that going. The supervisor, incurs expenditures for legal services as the legal agent of the, township. However, the township board may authorize other officials as needed. And then I also added something just to clarify what it takes to open a charge account somewhere, that has to be approved by the township board. We just have charge accounts at Cantwell's and, Lakeview Elevator, as far as I know. Those would be the two that I'd say we bought.
Mission lumber.
I don't know, it'd be worth a call to ask if there ever was something.
I believe so.
Yeah, because we
That
have
do it.
bills for that.
Do we do?
Yeah,
That do
from
it.
cemetery bills and stuff.
Okay, so we'll just add, I didn't list those here,
Yeah.
so as long as we're all under the understanding, the three that we have. Section 3, requisitions, so here's where you kinda break it out into, okay, what can be purchased without having to get prior approval of the board, and kinda go up in tiers based on dollar amounts, so I think this has kinda just been an unwritten rule, but purchases under 1,000 may be made without prior approval of the township board, as long as the expenditure does not exceed the applicable budget appropriation. So example would be Janie's laptop, she needs a laptop for her department, the board has already approved her budget, and as long as she doesn't spend over her budget, she could go ahead and make that purchase and then present it on the bills list at the next meeting. We still, the board still has to approve the final payment of the check, but she can go ahead and get that purchase going. So that's, kind of the first tier, if you will. And then our policy has always been to require, board approval prior to reimbursements for going to a training or a conference, so just, don't just automatically assume you're gonna get that reimbursed by signing up for something. Next tier would be, purchases of supplies, material, equipment, or services over 1,000, but less than 2,500 may be made on the open market and shall be approved by the township board prior to purchase. And I just threw in that number of 2,500, it seemed, just kinda knowing the things we purchase, that we don't have a ton of, bigger dollar items. I think it's still a good idea to get quotes, but we wouldn't necessarily have to go out and get 3 quotes as the next tier, which is purchases over 2,500 require a minimum of 3 quotes, submitted to the board for selection and approval prior to making the purchase. But that does not apply to, like intergovernmental contracts such as like the road commission, where the item's only available from one source, we can't go get those quotes. So those were the tiers, if you will, that I put on there. Does anybody have any thoughts or comments on that? Those numbers seem reasonable of kind of what we normally purchase.
Isn't there a limit on the credit card, $500?
Well, the credit card is a different, and that's, it's referenced, that they have to comply with the credit card use policy. That is $500 a transaction, so you can't run the credit card for more than $500 on an individual transaction, so.
So if they're getting a computer for $900, what do they do there?
Yeah, and I think Jamie probably might run into that if she wanted to put it on the township credit card. She may have to just,
Can you do 2 transactions, or no?
or she could, I don't know if you could or not, but she could put it on her own credit card and
Oh,
reimburse her.
Okay, yeah,
But
that makes
I think the
sense.
$500 is so if the credit card gets stolen or lost or something, somebody can't charge a bunch of transactions, at least in one setting, so. There's also a section, Roman numeral 4, for requests for qualifications or sealed competitive bids. I think that would be if we were doing a major construction contract or project, there would be some special rules we would have to follow. Use of licensed architects, engineers, et cetera, and would also have to potentially look at payment or performance bonds. So I don't know that we would get into section 4 much, but if there ever comes up, we'll know what we have to comply with. Roman numeral 5, emergency purchases. This is pretty common that I've seen. If the township supervisor shall have the authority to approve purchases of any product or service regardless of its cost when such purchase is necessitated by an emergency condition. Emergency condition defined to mean any event which presents an imminent threat to the public health or safety, or any event which would result in the disruption of a township service which is essential to public health and safety. And then the supervisor would have to give a report of such purchases at the next regular meeting. So highly unlikely we'd ever have that situation, but in the event there was an emergency, the supervisor would have authority there to make something happen. Roman numeral 6, acceptance of the most advantageous price. The board is not committed to accepting the lowest bid or price, but shall consider which bid or price is most advantageous to the township, which I think is good to have in there, because if everybody else is at 20,000 and somebody comes in at 5, something's wrong there. So we're not always just gonna go with the low bid. Exceptions to this policy talks about like recurring professional services such as insurance or audit, IT, legal, engineering, that type of stuff. Those don't necessarily need to be bid every time, except maybe like on a 3-year cycle, 3-year review of, are we happy with what we have? Do we wanna go out for bid? That type of thing. And then the last section is just reviewing the policy, once a year to make sure numbers are still appropriate. Anybody have any questions on purchasing policy? We'll move on to the, kind of goes hand in hand, is the accounts payable policy. So that's just to make the purchase, and then this is actually pay the bill when it comes in. And again, a lot of this stuff is mandated by the state. We're already doing it, but let's get it in our policy book. The clerk and or deputy clerk is responsible for processing accounts payable as invoices come in. Number 3 there, the processing of claims just talks about the documentation or proof that the clerk needs to maintain and prove that the expense is legit. Gives some different examples of what that documentation would look like. Once all that's done, the clerk prepares a check in the general ledger, and then puts that in a report for the board, which we do, which details the nature of the expense, the account numbers, vendor names, and then any items paid prior to the township board audit, which is mentioned in section 6, which those are recurring items that we approve every year, like utilities or recurring payroll. That's all has to be on the same report that comes to the board. And that needs to be, all invoices attached to the checks need to be available for the board prior to the meeting, which they are. Section 5, township board approval required for all claims. And this is all expenses with the exception of the tax collections and disbursements, which is the treasurer's department. That does not require board approval because that's on a set schedule, and would not be able to wait for each board meeting for Jamie to make a disbursement. But we have some checks and balances on that as well, which we'll get to. Section 6 again talks these recurring items, which we already approved these at the start of the fiscal year. I did add the QuickBooks subscription because that's actually set up to automatically post twice a year to the account, which is noted in our ACH policy. Check controls, numerically controlled pre-numbered checks, no signature stamps, check stock secured in a locked drawer. Again, again, all this stuff we're doing already, but, authorized check signers, the township clerk and deputy clerk, township treasurer and deputy treasurer, and then check processing. Each check should be signed, must be signed, shall be signed by either the clerk or deputy clerk and, the treasurer and or deputy treasurer. So one person from each department has to sign every check. Roman numeral 10, the electronic payments. This makes reference to the ACH policy, which is the next item in your packet. But really, we don't pay much by this, but we need to, I guess, spell that out. Our federal payroll taxes and our Michigan payroll taxes are paid, via electronic, ACH. And again, I added the QuickBooks subscription. That's just something that's always, been done that way. And then kind of talks about how the confirmation has to be forwarded to the clerk, and, the treasurer is really the only one that can officially approve that electronic transfer. So.
I don't know if this is a place to bring it up yet, or further down when, this week when we were in the office, we were talking about, Jamie was talking about that $3 charge for Granger, you know, to send us a bill.
Okay.
And so if we wanted to create, we already have an account online. I mean, you can, anybody that has an account with them can just make an account online. So that's, but whether you pay it online and they send you your bill online, what kind of a policy would that fall under? The same right here, electronic payments?
Are you saying you wanna make a vendor payment electronically?
If you did that, would that be, is that right?
It would probably
Follow
in
that
here.
same thing right there, because I can see that in the pretty near future, a lot of people start doing that, just like the 3% on your credit card, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
Anymore.
I guess things that I've kind of read is kind of limit what you pay electronically at this point, but you're right, that is kind of the way of the future, but.
But as far as going on, we could just go on,
But the
that's
paper
not an
statement,
issue for us to go
you're
on
saying you
and-
don't wanna pay $3 for a paper statement.
Right.
You could have that emailed to you and print it off and.
print it off and
still
then write a check, but we don't have to get any permission to go on.
Do a
and-
paper statement.
Yeah, to
Or,
open
sorry,
an account, or-
electronic statement.
right, to create an account. We actually have an account, we just don't have an online account.
Oh.
You know, with Granger or with anybody.
I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either,
No,
because
we're not
it's just,
creating,
alright,
just so you can access your account information and print the statement yourself, I think you're okay to do that. And then we also note we do not allow the use of debit cards. Used to have one previously, but, that's why we changed to a credit card, because a debit card puts your account at risk, yep. So again, kind of going hand in hand, the next one was that ACH. And the first page is just a resolution that the MTA had, and attached to it's the actual policy. Just talks about, the clerk initiates the electronic payments, meaning when you process in QuickBooks, the payroll taxes, that's initiated, getting the entry ready, and then you hand that off to the treasurer, who actually reviews it and pushes the send button.
so if this follows what I was just talking about, if we were to pay this electronically, that's the way
I
we do
would-
it.
I
I
would
would get
think
the
so.
bill, it would come in my email, and I would create that, just like we do for the taxes. Yeah, bedroom numbers.
But you wouldn't be allowed to make the final
Right.
statement. And we've been having, back when Blaine started working with us last summer, she was kind of that check and balance, if you will. Ginger would work on getting all the payroll stuff, and then Blaine would submit it. Well, now we're having Jamie do that, cause it's really the treasurer, now that Jamie's more acclimated and comfortable and stuff with all her other responsibilities, she was internal accounting controls at the bottom there, I guess up above responsibility for ACH agreements, it's really only the treasurer, can approve something to be paid by ACH, so Jamie would have to be on board if there was a bill that we wanted to be paid electronically. And, again, all detail would have to be provided with the board on the bills list. And then we have to keep an internal controls policy, which again talks about the treasurer kind of being the gatekeeper of when something's authorized to be paid by ACH. And again, the clerk would initiate it and then hand it off, and the treasurer would, finish it out. So those kind of go hand in hand, the accounts payable and ACH. And then number 4 is pretty short and sweet, is the tax disbursements policy, and as I mentioned, that account doesn't, require the dual signatures of the clerk and the treasurer, it's just in the treasurer's department. And it doesn't have to go before the board, but, for approval, because Jamie has to disperse that on a set schedule, what is it, every 15 days or something like that. So that's why it's different than regular accounts payable, but she still has to report that to the board, keep a separate bank account, and, report all that activity, which she does a really nice job in her reports of showing us all of the, collections she's taken in from, either people coming in or mailing in paper checks or paying online, which it looks like BSNA payments is going pretty well. And then she has to show us everything that gets dispersed out to the various, taxing jurisdictions. So, again, just putting it in our policies and writing. So, and that one's pretty short and sweet. Any questions on that one or comments? Did everything there look pretty good, Jamie? And then the fixed asset capitalization, that is when you buy a, I guess I would use the word major purchase or a big piece of equipment, you're supposed to have a kind of a cutoff threshold of when you're gonna, depreciate it versus just expense it right away, and it's really for our year-end statement, financial statements. It would be something we would do throughout the year. But 2,500 is this threshold we've used, again, unwritten rule, so let's put it in writing. Auditors love to see this stuff in writing. So I think this is good. So it has to be an asset purchased, built, or leased that has a useful life of 1 year or more. The cost of the asset is $2,500 or more on a per unit basis. And prolongs the life of the asset. And that could have potentially applied to our software programs too, depending on their cost. And then it details out the lives that we would depreciate them over, again, more for our year-end audited statement purposes. And then it also talks about what's more considered a repair, which you would just expense right away versus something that extends the life of the asset. So that would kind of a check the box one. Any questions on that? And then lastly is the resolution for acceptance of payments by financial transaction device. So we actually approved the same resolution last year, for the e-government services, ability for people to make, use that service for people to make online payments for their taxes. Well, now we have BSNA payments, so I added that on there. But in talking to Jamie, we still, this e-government services through Mercantile, which, we thought it doesn't cost us anything to keep it. We could give people the option of paying, their zoning fees or land division fees, cemetery, hall rental, FOIA. They could use that if that was an option, or something they would rather do versus mailing in a check. So I expanded those 3 bullet points kind of in the middle to say that we allow acceptance of electronic payments coming into us. And I think Jamie, we were using that eGov, it was set up to deposit into our tax account, but now that we're not using it, we would have to switch that back to Mercantile for the general fund account for those other items that aren't tax related. So this is just kind of a, hey, it's an option out there if we wanna start allowing people to make, if somebody calls you Dave and wants pay their zoning fee, well, you can pay it online, and just go, you can give you where to direct them to, and then, you know, it would come in, Jamie would see it coming into the bank account, and she would let Dave know, hey, so-and-so submitted their payment, you're good to process their permit, or, so we'd have to kind of come up with a communication system, which I think is pretty doable, so. Any questions? They're not exactly the most exciting stuff, but good things. We need to enhance that binder that we have for our policies. We have a few in there. Now we're gonna add some more and keep building on it. Anything before? I could probably do, that probably needs to be separate, cause that's got a resolution. That's a separate resolution. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the purchasing policy, accounts payable policy, tax disbursement policy, and fixed asset capitalization policy, drafts as presented. Is there support? Support. Motion's been made and supported. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And then I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution to authorize use of ACH arrangements and electronic transaction funds with the attached, Township ACH policy as presented. Is there support?
Support.
Motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do roll call. Myers?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Imhoff?
Yes.
Burnwell?
Yes.
Clark covered, yes. Motion carries. And lastly, I will make the motion to adopt the resolution for acceptance of payments by financial transaction device as presented. Is there support? Support. Motion's been made and supported. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Burnwell?
Yes.
Clark covered, yes. Imhoff?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Motion carries. Get that off the to-do list. It's been sitting there a while. And then I had added a second new business, item for building and property maintenance. So I thought, we're, it's into August now, maybe we can take a look at some of these items now that we see how they fit into our purchasing policy. So, just from a building perspective, kind of the smaller items, the fire extinguishers, they were new last, I don't know, May maybe, and those need to be inspected every year, and, they have a little punch card that shows when they're inspected, and I think they're due. So, I'm assuming that's like, probably gonna be around a couple $100, so that would fall into our purchasing policy, tier 1, under $1,000, so we could, Ginger could go ahead and contact, we have Summit Fire Protection, I think they're out of Mount Pleasant, because we have, a line item for, building maintenance, or township board supplies, somewhere, community center, that's what I wanna say. Or that could, repairs and maintenance, we have $1,000 there, so you could go ahead and get that in the works, I think. How about pest inspections, do we had treated last year, and I haven't seen any critters, and it feels, at this
I
point,
haven't either.
no problem until we see something.
Just ants, right,
Have them.
last year. Talk about ants.
Oh, we had centipedes.
And there was some centipedes, but I haven't seen them at all.
I have not seen them either.
So they,
And I haven't seen the ants since we got rid of them at one time.
so, again, that would be something that would fall under our tier 1, so you could, if you see something, you could go ahead and,
Mhm.
you know, check, obviously checking the budget. HVAC, we had that, was it Sunrise Heating and Plumbing came out earlier, was it this winter, they came out? So I'm assuming they checked our filters and stuff at that
They
time,
just
so
replaced filters.
we're probably not due for that, maybe as it gets colder, was our roof. So back in 2022, we paid almost $35,000 for a new roof, and that was through Keefe's Roofing in Stanton. And with that was a 15-year manufacturer warranty, and I wanted to know, do they recommend that they come out and inspect it every 3 years, 5 years, whatever? So I talked to somebody over there, and he said usually he recommends at year 7 that they come out and inspect it, and then every 3 years after that. But he said if you think you see something or you feel there's something they need to look at, to just call them. And if they're in the area, they can just stop by and look at the issue. We're already a customer, so there wouldn't be an inspection fee. If they found something, they would tell us what the cost was and bill us. The manufacturer's warranty is mainly only for like major failures, like if he comes out to do his inspection, he sees something he thinks is a major failure, which he said he's seen like once in 25 years or something, so, I don't know that we necessarily need to call him out, to look at the roof. I know we had a public comment before that maybe there was something up there, when you were up there working on, putting solar lights for Ginger, you had noted something, so maybe you wanna climb back up and look at it.
They need to come out and look at it and fix it.
Okay, well, we can kind of know exactly what it was, but
I'll get back
again, he
over
said it would, if they're in the area, he said just let them know, and when they're in the area, they can swing by, and, but it'd be nice to tell them, yeah, this is what we saw.
If I remember right, Ginger, wasn't it a seam?
We should take a picture.
Yeah, it's a seam where they overlap the top, come down. There's a seam that's it's not glued correctly, so therefore the water can work back in.
Okay, so,
If I remember right, but I can look at it again.
okay,
Yeah, take a picture of it if you're up there.
I'll do that on my spare time.
Okay, tomorrow, at 10?
okay,
What
so
about
that
right
was,
now?
Still daylight.
the tier 1 stuff. I'm gonna say this is maybe tier 2, between 1,000 and 2,500. That office carpet has
No.
seen I think it's time, guys. The Sesame Street, whatever era.
Vintage.
That carpet.
Probably
The
the money now.
Go in. Does
70s
anybody,
jag. What's that?
does anybody know when that was installed?
Had to be the 70s.
Oh, I'm sure it's the original, the building was built in 76, so it had to be the original carpet. So, and it's starting to smell.
It does smell like
I think hard surface needs to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's getting, I still
Fine
think
plank.
Well, either a hard surface or like this kind of carpet.
this would be better.
This is a commercial grade, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
commercial grade carpet, and I bought stuff to clean this one,
Yeah, and,
but it cleans up nice.
yeah, no, we're not talking a huge area, so I'm not a carpet expert, but I would think it would probably fall somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500,
It might be more than that,
more than you think.
yes, because you've got tear out, this field has to come out, so labor costs is a bit more, so, yeah.
I'll tear that baby.
Well,
You're probably looking at a minimum of, probably
Changing
for
my
like
number
a
too.
carpet like this, about a minimum
Maintenance
$50.
department.
15 a yard,
That would be about a minimum, up to possibly $28, depending on what you're gonna pick.
well, maybe we first contact somebody and get a ballpark, and then that'll tell us, if it's gonna be over 2,500, we need to get 3 quotes, but if they're like, oh.
$24.99.
I mean, I still feel in the tier 2, it's a good practice to at least get a couple quotes. So, we'll, maybe,
I can give you an idea.
being
I can
someone who's
start
been
with
in
an
the flooring
idea.
business,
Yes.
yeah, we can
That's,
maybe
I can easily
get
do
you
that, yeah.
to help with
Yeah.
that piece. Cause it's before winter, it'd be
I
nice.
think
to
I
have
guessed
winter.
that room just by looking at about 20 by 30. Would you say?
That's pretty big, I would guess, a little smaller, but yeah.
A little smaller than that, right?
I just need the dimensions and I can give you a rough idea.
Okay.
Do a 20
I mean, I've been
by
out of the business a long time, but I have dealt with
I do, but I'm not good.
since then.
Okay. And, yeah, we've got a few places in our budget we can,
30. So would it be a lot cheaper if it was everything was out of there first?
Yeah, if you want contractors to move your stuff, it's gonna cost you. We charged quite a bit to move.
Our handyman would probably do it Thursday.
Alright,
Actually, you got
we'll talk about it.
IT stuff in there, right, that needs to be, and then be put back,
Yeah.
so.
Well, we can plan, have some time to think about it, but I think the board, I just wanted the board to, and again, we'll have to look at where in the budget we could, make it happen, or if we need to use some money from fund balance to, not kill our budget in other areas. We can look at that, but we need to just kind of start exploring at this stage. And then the last item in the building property maintenance is the cemetery fence. Not the wrought iron on along the roadside, but the page wire for sure on the east
East side.
side, and really the whole perimeter, but the east side is neighboring somebody's yard, and it's in really rough shape.
We brought that up before.
We talked about that, I think, in the budget, other, that we need to look at that, and so that's something, I'll take the lead on that to try to get some quotes on, I think the page wire is preferred by the neighbor, because when high winds come, it blows a lot of, things that are on the graves, flowers and stuff, and it gets caught. It is that way, it's not constantly blowing over into his yard, so, between that, rolls of that stuff, we can price that out, and new T-post, and, labor, we can.
I feel like you're getting volunteered
Come
for a
up
lot
with
here.
come up with some quotes,
Mhm.
figure out where that'll be at, but otherwise, as far as our property maintenance, is there anything else in the building? I know we've talked about the kitchen, getting rid of the stove, and maybe getting a microwave or something. And I don't know about, was it you that talked about the cabinets, not needing all the cabinets? Somebody said something about
No,
cabinets.
they're just dirty.
No.
They just need to be
They
cleaned
just
out.
need to be,
Just need to be cleaned out and
I'll just add it to the bottom, kitchen, potentially, question mark.
I don't think you're looking at a lot of money, you're just looking more at labor type of thing. That's
So,
probably something we could even ask the cleaners to do
wait, no, the cabinets.
versus, they don't always need to vacuum when they come in here, because a lot of times, especially like if I clean the carpet and then they come in here and say, don't vacuum, just maybe clean the kitchen.
Or if a renter was just in on a Sunday, and was
Right.
supposed to vacuum, it's
Yeah.
already been done, they come on Monday, it's.
I would much rather see something like that, because this place gets vacuumed a lot. Our office does.
Do you wanna get rid of the stove, or do you want just a microwave and the stove?
I don't think we need no stove.
No, you don't want the stove, think we need the stove?
We
People
don't
aren't
want another
using it.
stove, no.
No, not another one, you wanna keep the one you have.
No.
You'd like to see that gone, and then,
I'd like to see that gone with the microwave right in place of where that's at. And then the underneath could be a place where you could put the vacuum or the garbage, and gives you more floor room in there. Our handyman can do that Saturday.
boy, she's just.
Looks
working
like
on
you're booked
schedule
for the week.
and scheduling.
Sorry, Mars.
I'll text
How about we
you.
just build a new building?
Okay, so we got a little bit of a game plan, talked that out. Anything else from the board before we go into final public comment? Okay, final public comment, any comments?
Yeah, Matt Hubbard, Cato Township, I do not work during the week.
Say
Where
that
do you
again.
work on the
For the
weekends?
township, how's that?
You do not work on the week,
During the week for the township,
Saturdays and Sundays are free.
so then Sunday would be better.
Sunday afternoon.
Afternoon.
We appreciate it.
We do
Somebody
appreciate it.
Right, somebody